the motherland, Russia, hosting the World Cup, Joe, and they are through to the round of 8. Shocking, and lots of shockers in this World Cup so far. What are you thinking?
What an incredible round of 16. One of the best rounds of 16 that I've seen in my lifetime. Although there was a ton of penalty kick shootouts, but all of them came down to the wire. You had Japan holding on to a 2-0, and then all of a sudden Belgium comes back and beats them 3-2.
Lots of shockers. We're excited to break down our 4th World Cup episode. This is ATLians United. This is a bonus episode. Thanks for joining us. Joe, let's do this thing.
Couple of great games, and start off with a penalty kick shootout with the motherland Russia going up against former world champions in Spain, one of the top teams in the world coming into the tournament. And
Shocker.
What an incredible win for Russia. Spain goes out there and tries to play their game, pass the ball to death, pass it all over the place.
Tiki-taka, tiki-taka.
And to me, that was probably the most boring game of the whole tournament.
A snoozer. They're just passing it. It was center back, passes it to center back, passes it to left back, passes it to center back, maybe tries the ball to the midfield, passes it back to the center back. Terrible to watch.
And Russia held on. They played their own game style. And Spain may have gotten one goal, and it came right back, and Russia was able to get a goal themselves to tie it up. And then they played their defense while trying to still create chances on the minimal 20% possession that they had throughout the game.
Yeah.
And then they realized their best way to do it is to bring it to penalty kicks, and they did. And they showed up.
Yeah.
In front of their home fans, and now they move on to the next round, and they face Croatia.
Yeah. Let's talk about that first day in the World Cup, Joe. We had 2 of the most exciting games in the round of 16. We had France versus Argentina to kick things off. I know you were in the car. You said you were listening to a Spanish broadcast of this game?
Yeah, I was stuck in traffic. I wasn't able to watch the game, so I was able to find it on the radio at 1600 a.m., and they do the whole broadcast in Spanish. And if you don't know, I'm very minimal in the Spanish language, not very fluent. But I was able to tell what was going on by knowing the players, and the Spanish commentators could tell me when there was a goal or not.
Did they go longer than that?
Oh!
Lazo! Yeah, what a game. France ends up winning 4-3. Possibly Lionel Messi's last World Cup game ever. And the star of the show was Mbappe.
Yeah, and France, to me, looks like the top quality in this tournament of the teams left. They are loaded with talent, and they are hungry and looking like they can very much take this championship.
Top to bottom, I would agree with you. I think France is the best team left in the competition. Let's talk about the other game, Uruguay versus Portugal. The other, Ballon d'Or competition against Messi for so many years. It's been Messi versus Ronaldo, Messi versus Ronaldo. We were thinking maybe we'll get a quarterfinal match, Messi versus Ronaldo, and Uruguay comes out and beats Portugal behind 2 Edison Cavani goals.
Cavani going up, making a great play at midfield, crossing it to the top of the box to Suarez, makes the run from midfield to the goal while Suarez passes it back to Cavani, off his face into the goal.
Off the face!
And it was incredible. But at the very end of the game, Cavani limps off the field. And what a good sport in Cristiano Ronaldo to help his friend off the field. And more like, just get off the field so I can go try to score a goal.
Maybe just didn't want time waste anymore.
But Cavani out of the next match.
Huge.
So now France goes on to face Uruguay, and they've only got Suarez up top. And they're going to have to rely very heavily on their defensive front. What do you think, Blake? Who's going to take that game?
Man, I don't know yet. I just think it's got to be France in this situation. Because without Cavani, Uruguay is just not the same team. Their strength was in their attack. They got a great defense. They have a fantastic defense. But I think after watching France dismantle Argentina's defense, I just don't think there's any stopping these kids, because they are kids. France is a lot of youth. They're quick. They're skilled. And they're some of the best players in the world that are going to be around for the next 8 to 10 years.
Yeah, and Uruguay's only given up 1 goal this entire World Cup. So they're going to have to do even better than that while facing France, who's got a high-powered offense.
Agreed.
And can Uruguay create any goals with just Suarez up top? Is that going to happen, or are we going to see France just dismantle them like they did Argentina?
It's tough to say, man. It's tough to say, but I like France in this game.
I've got to agree with you, and I'm going France.
Okay, let's talk about the other side of the bracket that we've talked about already with Russia moving on. Another team that weaseled their way in there, and I say weaseled, that's probably not the best term because they're an excellent team, but it was a very back-and-forth game. Croatia is going to be facing Russia in the quarterfinals. And let's talk about how Croatia got here, Joe. Like, what have you thought about Croatia so far?
Well, Croatia got themselves out of the most difficult group pre-World Cup, looking at the most difficult group, and they won all 3 games.
Yeah.
And then they faced Denmark, and they ran into Kasper Schmeichel.
Man.
And that Kasper Schmeichel had the game of his life, had incredible save after incredible save, and it was tied 1-1 in the 85th minute, and Croatia gets a penalty kick.
You think it's over? Modric stepping up to take
Luka Modric steps up to take the penalty kick, and Schmeichel is there again with the save.
Yeah, his dad was watching in the stands, fist bumping. It was a great moment. You thought Schmeichel was going to carry him as they went into penalty kicks as well, just like the Russia game.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden it's Croatia's turn to have incredible saves. And that may have been the most saves I've seen combined in a penalty kick shootout since I've been watching penalty kick shootouts.
Yeah, Schmeichel had 2 saves in the PK shootout, but then, like you said, Croatia, I believe, had 3 saves, and Croatia moves on to face Russia, winner going to the semifinals. Who you got in that game, Joe?
Well, I've had Croatia as my team in the Final Four, but I'm riding on the high of Russia with their home fans, and I'm just going with my heart instead of my mind, and I'm pulling for Russia to bring it home to the motherland.
Dude, I mean, how are you going to bet against Russia at this point? Like, how could you say, oh, yeah, Croatia's got this one in the bag? I mean, Spain, they didn't win the last World Cup, but they won the one before that. They were a fantastic team. A lot of the same players from that World Cup victory 8 years ago, and they just got out-hearted at the end by Russia. I like the heart of Russia, but I don't think it's going to hold up for them. I like Croatia to go through here, Joe. I really do. I think they're the better players on the better team.
That's a safe pick. It's a solid pick.
I think Croatia finally knocks the Russians off.
And it's probably the right pick.
Great run by Russia, but I like Croatia here.
Well, let's move down to the other bottom left of the bracket where you've got possibly the best matchup of this entire round. You've got powerhouse Brazil against the young underdog favorites of Belgium.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about how they got there. We talked about it right at our intro. Belgium versus Japan, potentially one of the games of the tournament. I mean, Japan gets up 2-0 deep in the second half.
Couple of great goals, too.
The second goal by Japan was fantastic. The Blue Samurai are going crazy. If there weren't so many earthquakes in Japan, I would make an earthquake joke like it was in Mexico, but Japan was rocking, and they blow it. It was a choke job.
They went for it. You got to give it up to Japan. They did not sit back and try to hold on to the victory. They went for it to try to get more goals. And then Belgium tied it up 2-2, and Japan gets this corner kick, and they're putting everybody up just to try to get that goal in the dying seconds.
Going for the win.
And they cross it in, the ball gets cleared, and you get Kevin De Bruyne in a full field sprint, and you've got all the Samurai trying to run back, and they can't catch him, and they bring it all the way back down, and all of a sudden Belgium scores in the closing seconds of the game, and they move on in an emotional win. And now Belgium has to play Brazil, and they've got to face the rolling Neymars.
The rolling Neymars. Let's talk a little bit about Neymar. Before we talk about Brazil, let's talk about Neymar as an individual. This is a guy who made a big money move in club football to PSG in the offseason, left Barcelona, arguably one of the greatest clubs in the world. He paid his own release clause to get released to PSG. He really wanted out of Barcelona for whatever reason. He wanted to be the star of a team. Now he's linked on a move away from PSG this summer. This guy's always just surrounded by controversy. He's kind of known to maybe, well, let's say, be a master of the embellishment or the dark arts, and it's been on full display this World Cup. He's been on the ground for quite a bit. You know?
he has, and he's been milking every minute of it. And every time he gets fouled, it's kind of annoying to watch. And now he's got a big target on him, like he didn't have before. And he gets touched, and he rolls and rolls and rolls and keeps rolling.
He's
rolling,
still rolling.
rolling.
I think he just rolled by our studio.
Yeah, he's on his way back around the world to get back to Russia.
Yeah.
Just in time for tomorrow's kickoff. And who do you got here in this or let me go on a little further though. Outside of Neymar, Brazil is just loaded with talent. Philip Coutinho has been a star in this tournament.
He's been played better than Neymar, in my opinion.
And then coming off the bench, you got Roberto Firmino.
Bobby Firmino.
He's come on and played incredible. Is there a chance that Firmino gets the start?
Well, it's been between him and Jesus or Jesus,
Gabriel
if you will.
Jesus.
Yeah. So, you know, I just think that, you know, with how Brazil is, Jesus is going to start. But I think that Bobby Firmino is the better striker in terms of link-up play. I think they keep starting Jesus up there because of how well he played leading up to the World Cup and the qualifiers. But Brazil has tons of options. Belgium's got tons of options. One more shout out to Japan because they were so classy. I loved watching this team play, and it's really sad to see them out of the tournament. I heard they left a thank you note in their locker room.
Yes, Japan left the World Cup in Russia, and they cleaned their locker room spotless. And not only did they leave a thank you note, they left the thank you note in Russian. And so they leave on a
classiest team ever.
What a classy statement. And all their fans, after every single game, after the game was over, win or lose, they went around the stadium with trash bags, picking up trash. And it's just a really great Japanese thing to do. And a shout out to them. That's how you should live your life.
Before we break down the Brazil-Belgium game, I just had to give one final shout out to the Blue Samurai and their fans. They were a fan favorite. I became a Japan fan during this tournament. They were really fun to watch. So let's talk about Brazil versus Belgium, the third matchup of our quarterfinals, if you will. It's going to be Saturday, 2 p.m. Who you got, Joe? This is arguably the two best teams left in the tournament besides maybe France. Who's getting through?
I've got to go with Brazil. They were my preseason pick or pre-tournament pick to win it all, and I still think they got it. Paulinho in the middle of that field is the catalyst. He's scored a goal already. He is all over the place, and he's controlling and pulling the strings. And they've got Marcelo on the back. They got Thiago Silva, and they're just playing great football. Neymar or no Neymar, I still think they're going to pull it through.
I got to disagree with you on this one as well. Just like Russia-Croatia, I think I got Croatia. I got Belgium here, and I got it for a couple reasons. You mentioned, a couple players on Brazil. I love Belgium's midfield. I really do. I think when you put De Bruyne and you put Hazard and you put Lukaku, who obviously plays up front, and they can rotate people in. They can rotate in Frode out Fellini. They also have Dembele they can bring in. They have so much talent in the midfield.
You got Mertens in the back with another Fro, and you got Drace on the other side.
And arguably the best keeper, and I think that's what I'm going to highlight on, is the X factor. And Courtois is a fantastic keeper, plays club football at Chelsea. I like Belgium to get through here. I think Neymar is a fantastic player. I think, like you said, Paulinho's solid. Coutinho's had an excellent World Cup. Jesus hasn't really done anything this World Cup. You mentioned Marcelo. He was actually out hurt last game. I like Belgium here. I think the grit Belgium showed to come back from 2-0 down is adversity that Brazil hasn't faced yet this World Cup. And I think that if Brazil gets down, we've already seen it from last World Cup. What happened when Brazil got down? They ended up losing, 7-1?
Yeah, 7-1.
Yeah, so if Belgium gets up early, I could see a similar Brazilian meltdown. I think whoever scores first wins this game. I think Belgium scores first. Let's talk about the final quarterfinal matchup, though. England and Sweden have made it through. Let's talk about how they got there. Let's start with Sweden. What do you think, Joe?
Well, Sweden, their only loss so far has been to Germany, one of the pre-tournament favorites, and they only lost to them in a 94th minute free kick by Toni Kroos, one of the best goals of the tournament. Other than that, they've moved on. They've tied or won every game, and they were able to move on again against Switzerland, scoring a great goal in the closing minutes of the of their game against Switzerland to move on. So this is a resilient Swiss team. And again, the way they made it to the tournament.
Swedish team.
The Swedish team. The way they made it to the tournament is beating Italia and knocking out one of the pre-tournament favorites before the tournament even started. So they're another team like Russia. How are you going to count them out? But then you've got England, who is just full of youth and full of no fear going out there and loaded with talent.
Let's talk about how England got there. Colombia was their opponent, reffed by the infamous Mark Geiger from the MLS. So the more yellow cards than any World Cup game so far, of course. Geiger had to be controversial. This one goes to PKs. England has lost more PK shootouts than any team in international World Cup history or major tournament history, whether it's Euros or World Cup. England always loses on PKs. It's the curse. It goes to PKs, and all of England from London up to Newcastle is looking away from the TV because they're thinking, here we go again.
Yeah, and Colombia scores the first PK. England matches them. Colombia scores again. England comes up and misses their PK.
Jordan Henderson got it saved. It was a good PK too, but a fantastic save.
But then the following two penalty kicks from Colombia were saved. And then England finishes it out and wins the penalty kick shootout 4-3.
Jordan Pickford, keeper for England, fantastic performance in the PK shootout. And, you also got to highlight something is I thought the last PK, it was originally supposed to be Jamie Vardy, who plays for Leicester City and is a fantastic striker in his own right. But Eric Dyer gets up. He's like a central, defensive midfielder, sometimes even plays center back. Not the guy you expected to take the last game-deciding PK for England. Slots at home. That was clutch. And England moves on. And England's in a great position to get into the semifinals, in my opinion. They go up against Sweden, who everyone keeps counting out, but they're still here. Who you got? Sweden, England. What you got?
I think this is the easiest call. And just like you look at the whole World Cup, when you think it's the easiest call, it's probably not. But I'm still going with England, and this might be the biggest blowout of the group of this final 8. I think England wins this by multiple goals.
Wow, that's bold. I'm going to go with you on this one, although I just think that this is going to be a lot closer than you do. I could see this one going to PKs again. I just think that Sweden is so good defensively. They play as a team. They're not flashy, but they just keep knocking out top competition, and here they are. How are you going to count out Sweden? I think though, at the end of the day, you're right. England has more talent, and England moves on. So in the Final Four, I got England, I got France, I got Belgium, and I got Croatia. Man, I cannot wait for this. This is incredible.
Give me your World Cup winner if you had to repick now.
If I had to repick right this moment, and someone put a gun to my head and said, Blake, your only chance at living is to pick the World Cup winner. You know who I'd say? I'd say France.
I'm going to have to go with Brazil and stick with my gut. But this is going to be an exciting weekend of football. We only got a few matches left, and let's come out with a bang. Let's finish this up, and let's go enjoy some soccer, go enjoy some football, and drink some beers while you're at it.
Yeah.
Everybody, go enjoy the World Cup. This has been our bonus episode of ATLians United. Please reach out and see our regular week podcast.
Also called ATLians United. World Cup!